In YouTube, this is Tyre Metalhead Weatherman here. I hope you guys have had a very good day. Transitioning into the evening, I'm up here hitting you guys with another video today because there's actually been a lot of changes in the last 19 hours since I posted my first video. Speaking of which, I hope that you guys enjoyed that first video. To the 7 people that have seen it, thank you for at least watching, even if you didn't watch all of it. Still appreciate you. If you have any feedback for me, please let me know. If you like the video, of course, drop a like, maybe subscribe. I'm trying to get this channel growing. I don't really have a huge goal right now, but you know, it'd be nice to see this thing grow by the end of the year. 100 subscribers would be amazing, but I'll take whatever I can get, especially if you guys just enjoy hearing me talk. But anyways, I'm going to get into the severe weather aspect of this storm because there's been a lot. That's where we've had the most changes. If we look on the National Weather Service page, we actually can see here that there is now an enhanced risk. That wasn't there when I posted my video yesterday. This risk encompasses areas like Tallahassee, Florida, Albany, Georgia, Valdosta, back towards Panama City, Florida, and Thomasville, Georgia as well. So, and the slight risk has actually also moved a little bit as well. It's gotten a little further inland into South Carolina, and just kind of hanging around that northern little tip of North Carolina. We also can see that the marginal risk has also moved up a little north, and it's including areas like Atlanta. So we're going to move into the operational models here. We're going to start out with the American-made GFS, and we're going to see just exactly what they're showing us. From what I've been seeing, oh wow, here we go with that again. I haven't been seeing too many changes in regards to the weather picture, other than maybe more thunderstorms moving further north than what they were yesterday. So as we're moving along here, everything progresses as normal. And once we get into about that 7 to 9 o'clock hour on Friday, that's when business starts to really pick up around the Gulf Coast. We're seeing a little bit more activity. The main threat tends to be late Friday night all the way through early Saturday afternoon. So as we're moving along here, we see the low pressure develop, and we're seeing increased activity, and then there's our line of storms right here. This is going to be our damaging wind threat, but GFS hasn't been really showing that there's a potential for a few isolated supercells to form ahead of this, which is what we believe has been leading to the increased tornado threat, thus the enhanced risk being issued in this area here. Apologize for not getting my words out properly, but listen, I'm a landscaper, so I've been working for about 9 hours, so I'm a little tired. Please bear with me. But anyway, so by Saturday afternoon, the line of storms moves out, and by about 6 o'clock, we're pretty much done with the severe weather threat, according to GFS. Euromodel pretty much shows us the same exact thing, but I did notice something a little earlier when I was looking at this. As I want you to watch closely as we move along here. So we're at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday. So now I want you to look at this here. We have a low that forms ahead of this low here, and this low is supposed to be here as well. It's supposed to be here come Saturday, I mean. And watch closely what ends up happening. This fires off some thunderstorms a little bit earlier than what the GFS is showing us on Friday afternoon around 6 o'clock. On the GFS, things didn't really pick up till about 8 or 9 o'clock. So as we're moving along here, this low moves out and then this low moves in. This piece of energy moves in and fires up brand new storms. And then look at this right here. These storms are a little bit more isolated in nature. When you see something like this, tornado threat starts to go up because in a line of storms, they're competing for all the energy, all the cape that's in the air. When they're close together, they aren't really able to mature the same as they would if they were isolated. So we're seeing a couple areas where there's some storms ahead of the line. So this is going to be interesting to watch. Definitely looking like it will be a nowcast situation where we won't really know until storms start to form. So best thing you can do is just keep your eye on the weather and make sure that if a tornado warning is issued, you have a plan of action and you're able to execute. Especially down towards Panama City, Tallahassee in particular. So as we move along, it pretty much becomes the same thing as the GFS. Saturday at like around noon, Saturday, 6 o'clock, we're just about done with severe weather at that point. NAM is kind of showing the same thing. Excuse me a second. I think that on it. This thing's acting up a little bit. Thought I had it on the loop. I apologize for that. But NAM has also been kind of showing us the same thing. It didn't show the two low pressures that we saw in the Euro in the same manner. In fact, I think this is the piece of energy, I think right about here is where the piece of energy that the Euro picked up on earlier was talking about, but the Euro had it back like hanging around right here. So let's look through this and see what this has to offer for us. And it has that low just kind of meandering around the Delmarva area, just in the Atlantic, and then it just fades away. So as we look further and further ahead, we only get one low pressure right here around Louisiana, New Orleans, Baton Rouge area. However, we do get pieces of this little southern stream piece of energy here firing off some storms, which could be severe. This hits areas like Jacksonville, Brunswick, Georgia, and Savannah from the looks of it as well. Some of these probably are going to be severe. So according to the NAM in particular, it looks like we're going to get multiple waves of strong to severe thunderstorms throughout the day in the enhanced risk region. And all modes seem to be possible from the looks of it as well. We'll get further in depth in that in just a moment. But basically, really pretty much from Friday afternoon into early Saturday afternoon, if you're in the enhanced risk area in particular, pretty much I would say anywhere from Columbus southward and as far west as Panama City, maybe even as far west as Biloxi. I would keep an eye on this. So as we're moving further along, that first wave moves out, and then you start to see another wave begin to move in here. So then the low pressure moves over, and then our line of storms form around 9 o'clock Saturday according to the NAM 3 kilometer. We're freezing. Okay, there we go. So, and then it pretty much becomes the same deal by about 3-4 o'clock. Most of the storms, if not all of them, will be exiting the area. And then by Sunday, everybody's in the clear in regards to rain and snow. But look at that low pressure right here. just goes absolutely bonkers. 893 millibars. Now that's a storm right there. I almost think that's a little bit too wild, a little bit radical for a storm system during this time of year, but this thing is definitely expected to bomb out, that's for sure. Look at the isobars around it too. Another thing on how to read these weather maps, if you see a storm system and you see these little really small lines like these right here tight together, that's a very, very intense storm. So let's move along here. We're going to take a look at some of the severe weather parameters that we love looking at. One reason in particular why the storm threat, I think, has been increased by the National Weather Service is, hang on a minute. Look at the dew points that are around the Gulf Coast right now. We're at 60 and at some places even 70 degrees right now. That's crazy. So we go through Thursday and we're seeing these dew points actually increasing around the areas where the enhanced risk are. You need these kinds of dew points in order for severe storms to really develop and mature. You got to have moisture. So as we look here, we're starting to see even a few upper 60s and 70s starting to creep in, especially around the Florida Panhandle, which is really concerning, and it's happening overnight. So overnight might be a rough time if you're in somewhere like Panama City or Tallahassee in particular. So you can also see something really interesting here. Right, so we're seeing dew points in the 50s, 40s, and then the 60s right here. But look right where that line is. That's where our cold front is, that's where our storm system is, and that's where all the snow is, right behind this line here. So as we move further and further along, watch how that ends up meeting up with this warm, moist air, and that's how we're going to get that line of storms to fire off. And after the front moves through, air gets drier, everything becomes stable, and if you just happen to be at the 540 line that was on the other models here, or the 32 degree line, you're going to get snow pretty much around in this area in particular, and then of course this area. Oops, went a little further south than I wanted. But you can see here clearly that this storm system moves through relatively quick by Sunday morning. Any chance of severe weather in the area is pretty much gone. So take a look at a few other parameters as well. We're going to look, of course, at the Cape and the lapse rate as well. I think I'm actually going to look at the lapse rate first. Moving slow. And if by some chance you had watched the video last night, you will have noticed that the lapse rate looked entirely different. The rate was a lot lower. Just that in itself tells me that there is an increased hail threat as well as a potential straight line winded tornado threat. Because when we looked at this yesterday, it didn't look anything close to this. So let's move along here and see what we got. So, wow, look at that. Wow, look at this little area right here. We're talking about a lapse rate of 8. Wow, that's pretty freaking high. So, about early Friday morning, hail threat really starts to ramp up here. Starts to get a little further and further north though as well. So, I think around Savannah, Columbus, I think the main threat for you guys will be hail on early Friday morning. Maybe some large hail too at that. And then we have multiple waves of hail, multiple waves of this increased lapse rate as well as the storms that come through. But as time goes on, you can kind of notice that the hail threat starts to decrease. But I'm also noticing a little bit of a lapse rate here around. I also noticed a bit of a lapse rate around some of these areas that we're expecting snow. Could there potentially be thunder snow? I'm not a big expert when it comes to lapse rates, but I do find that kind of interesting. I'm gonna definitely look that up after this video. So, but yeah, as you can see here, by Friday night, lapse rate is pretty much out of the severe weather areas, and you get maybe one more little push around early Saturday morning, but it's nothing magnanimous. And then, of course, once the severe weather's gone, lapse rate goes too. So, all right, now that we looked at the lapse rate, we'll look at the Cape and the Shear, and then we'll get into the snow side of this winter weather system. So we're going to look at the mixed layered Cape. And even that, and you can also notice that there's been an uptick in that as well, whereas yesterday we were barely breaking 2,000. Now we're starting to break 3,000 down here in the Gulf, and this Cape does end up moving a little bit further inland, unlike before. So as we watch this move further and further along, about, I'd say maybe 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, look at that. Look at the Cape starting to move inland, especially towards the Florida Panhandle, right where that enhanced risk is. Guys at the National Weather Service, they definitely know what they're doing. I think they've done a very good job watching this. So Cape really starts to increase during the late night hours, which I find kind of concerning, because there is a complex of thunderstorms slotted to be in this area. The dew points will still be very much in the mid to upper 60s in some of these spots, so definitely have a risk for pretty considerable risk for severe weather. We'll take a closer look at the Shear in just a moment to see what the tornado threat is looking like, but I definitely can tell you it's increased a lot more from what it was yesterday. So, of course, as we move further and further along, Cape decreases as the storms exit the area, and by Saturday night and Sunday, it's gone. Alright, now here is what I've been the most interested in, and that's the bulk shear. This shear is basically the low-level jet stream. A lot of guys in the business tend to call this tornado juice, because if a storm forms over that area and it has all the other parameters available, it increases the chance for a tornado to form, basically. So we're looking here, and we do have a little bit of areas where the shear has increased more from yesterday as well. Once again, definitely can see why the National Weather Service increased to an enhanced risk around the Florida area. But look at that right there. It's early Friday morning, and I do see a little bit of a low-level jet streak forming right around the coast. Let's move further and further along here. And it only increases. Look at that. Wow. This pushes up as far north as Atlanta. Don't worry, Atlanta, you're not going to get tornadoes. This is around 1 o'clock on Friday. Still expected to be dry. The storms aren't going to quite make it to us at that point. But right around areas like Valdosta and Albany, Georgia, and a little bit further south too, this is when you want to start keeping an eye on things, because this tornado threat definitely seems like it is ramped up from what we saw yesterday. So as we move further and further along, we can see that lower level jet has really started to kick up. Ooh, look at that. Look at that right there. We're looking at over 80 knots in some spots. Right about here. And this is right around the time when the Cape is really starting to pick up around this area as well. So Definitely something that needs to be paid attention to for anyone in the enhanced region. Could be a few overnight tornadoes. Definitely not something you want to play with or get caught up in. So as we move further and further along, lower level jet really ramps up here, but the severe but I think this is more towards the snow side of things. So either way, even if you don't get severe weather, as I showed you yesterday, there's a lot of cold air going to be associated with this, and also a lot of wind energy. So like I said, don't put the jacket away just yet. Even if you don't get snow, it's going to get very cold within the next couple of days. Wow, just look at this low level jet. That is crazy. This thing really ramps up as it's starting to go, as that low pressure is starting to push to the northeast. I can only imagine what could have happened if it was a little bit warmer during this time of the year. This could be a huge tornado. This would have possibly been a huge tornado outbreak. So, of course, by Sunday, winds will start to die down. And by Monday, we should be all good again in the eastern half of the country. So, definitely to anyone in this enhanced risk region, you guys definitely want to be like really careful. Take heed of any severe weather warnings that you might get, because if you get hit by it, it could really mess up your day, really mess up your night, or worse. I hope for the best here, but it's definitely not something I would want to play with here. I'm not trying to scare anybody or anything like that, but please take these warnings seriously. We've had a lot of problems this winter with severe weather. A lot of people have been getting hurt. So now that we've gone over all of that, let's go back to our forecast models and take a look at this snow threat here. Doesn't want to work right now. Alright, so we're going to move towards about noon, 1 o'clock Friday. So as we can see here, our snowstorm is starting to really develop here. Southern Stream Peace Energy kicks it off in New Mexico, excuse me. Wow, North Mexico. It's funny. So as time goes on, things really start to pick up around 9-10 o'clock, or 8 or 9 o'clock, excuse me, in Little Rock. In Arkansas areas like Little Rock is going to start to see a little bit of heavy snow, and this complex only mature more and more. For areas like Western Tennessee, you're actually going to start out as snow this time, whereas before you were going to get a little bit of rain. I've also noticed the snow line is pushing a little bit further south on the GFS than it did last night. So as time goes on, like, look at that. Like, look how much further south it's gone. Whereas before it was kind of skimming the Tennessee border with states like Alabama and Georgia. Now we're starting to see them get into play for a little band of snow, maybe even some heavy snow. Like I said yesterday though, this is a very fast moving storm system. So if you're in line for some snow, I wouldn't expect major accumulation, but it's definitely something that will make headlines on your local news station. Snow in March. Anyway, so as we move further and further along, the storm really starts to ramp up early Saturday morning. We're looking at about 9 or 10 o'clock Eastern time, and this low has dropped below the 1,000 millibar mark. It's a very strong system, really starting to bring some heavy snow into the Ohio Valley, the Appalachians, and starting to get past the Great Lakes into interior Northeast. we can really start to see this little heavy band of snow on in eastern Kentucky into the Appalachians and on the eastern side of Ohio. So Buffalo, you're looking like you're definitely going to get hit by that as well. So as we move further and further along, areas like Philadelphia and New York City, you're going to start out as rain, and then you're slowly going to work your way towards ending out as snow. By between about 3-6 o'clock, that's when you start getting snow, and possibly even a couple of heavy bursts of snow at that. You're probably going to get a few inches out of this, to say the least. And then as we move along, by about midnight, the snow's moved out of most of the area, and then Maine's the only one left in play. Then by about 3 a.m., 4 a.m.-ish, this storm's pretty much done dropping snow for everybody. And then everything starts to quiet down. Sunday's expected to be quiet, so on and so forth. So Euro pretty much shows the same thing. Snow line's a little bit further to the north, but not by much. Snow's also a little further off to the west. This one kind of has the low tracking a little bit further to the north. But this also might be why we have an increased severe weather threat. Still a lot of moving parts to this storm. There's still going to be a lot of uncertainty as a result. So all I can tell you is keep checking your forecast. Stay tuned to the National Weather Service, the Weather Channel, or if you want to choose me, then I would greatly appreciate that as well. But as we move further and further along, it's pretty much the same old story. Interior Northeast, Ohio Valley, and the foothills of the Appalachians get walloped by snow. And then by early Sunday afternoon, this thing will be already gone and things will start to quiet down. There's nothing magnanimous going on until later next week. We'll get into that in another video. So NAM pretty much will show the same thing. Excuse me. Jeez, little phlegm. Sorry about that. So NAM shows the same thing. Snow line's slightly more towards the south, but the same old. It's pretty much the same old story. It's kind of picking up on a few supercells as well towards South Carolina, whereas the Euro and the GFS weren't able to. But we're still getting the same heavy band of snow from the foothills of the Appalachians into the interior Northeast. A little bit of ice here and there as well. Other models weren't really picking up on that for maybe areas like Connecticut, New Hampshire and Vermont, but it's not going to equate to much. And of course by Sunday, well, no, actually the NAM has this hanging around a little bit longer. NAM has this hanging around till about probably, I'd say, 9-10 o'clock on Sunday. I do kind of think this might be a little bit bullish here. This 893 millibar low pressure, that's a bit absurd to me. I wouldn't be surprised by the next forecast model run that changes. I mean, if that was an 893 storm, that's kind of troubling. Sheesh. Might have an all-out blizzard in the southernmost part of Maine. But now let's take a look at the snowfall totals and see what each model is showing us. So that way we'll get a general idea of who should expect what. I mean, we're still pretty far out on, we're still a little bit far out on time. I really think a lot of this is going to be a nowcast situation. I mean, I've been watching the GFS all week. change where that low pressure ends up being by about 50 to 100 miles pretty much each run. So it's really going to be kind of a murky deal until we're starting to see lost for words here, but it's really going to be a nowcasting situation, just like I said with the severe weather as well. But all right, anyway though, I'm rambling and losing track here, but we're going to take a look here at the GFS. So we're looking at a 10-to-1 ratio here, so it's kind of extreme. I don't think it'll be to this. I don't think we're going to get snow to this extent, but we're looking over here. Arkansas has a little streak of snow. I think that area could be a little bit wider, because I think they're going to have snow for the longest period of time over most of these other areas, with the exception of the interior Northeast. To a point, I agree with this, but to a point, I agree with the amount that we're getting in the foothills of the Appalachians. I do think that Ohio might want to push. I think Ohio may get a little bit more off to the west than this. And then I agree with this here in the Northeast. So look at the European model. This, like I said, the European had a snow line pushing a little bit further south. Anyone that's trying to get their hopes in my area, Atlanta, don't do it. I mean, you may see a dusting if you're lucky, but I'm not really seeing any major snow for us. We've been kind of getting stiffed all year, and that ain't gonna change. So anyone that's a snow lover like myself, this one isn't it for us. But yeah, unfortunately the Euro and the GFS have no love for us. Let's see if the 3 kilometer, excuse me, wow, I'm really tired. The NAM 3 kilometer has any love for us? Survey says no there. I definitely don't agree with the amount of snow that it's putting for the Arkansas region. Everything else I'm on board with. This is also the 10-to-1, so a lot of these totals aren't going to be quite right. These 10-to-1 totals, this purple is indicating about 10 inches of snow. Yeah, this storm system is not moving slow enough to do that. It doesn't have that much moisture with it either, so yeah. We're going to actually, so now I'm going to look at one more model here. This is the National Weather Service model. It's a blend of all the forecast models. So we kind of get like a happy medium in the totals. But they pretty much just whiff everybody in Arkansas, Little Rock, and into Memphis. They have their jackpot area, as I call it. Jackpot area is still going to be. They have their jackpot area a little bit further north than all the other models too. I mean, we'll have to see. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I think it could be a little bit further to the east than this, but time will only tell. And this still has plenty of room to change, so all we can do is just wait and see. But that's all I have for you. If you liked the video, please drop a like, subscribe, spread the word. My name's Ty, and I hope you guys have a good night and stay metal.